The New South Wales Premier Chris Minns is facing growing pushback from local Sydney councils over his housing density plan. I spoke with the Fairfield City Mayor, Frank Carbone, on the program earlier this week. This is what he had to say.
I'm supporting higher densities in the train line, okay? So let's get that right. I'm not against the housing, but I can't support a broad brush approach that is going to basically change the fabric of what we see now as a family home. Basically now, what he's proposing is every single house in New South Wales, where at the moment you've got a 12-metre frontage, that frontage becomes 6 metres. Where are people going to park their cars? And when you work out the devil's in the detail, it's 0.65 to 1 for the development, which actually means that you're basically building small units on the blocks of land. One garage is going to be used for storage. You won't be able to put a Hills hoist in the backyard. So I'm not against housing, but we need the right planning framework.
Joining me now is Inner West Mayor Darcy Byrne. Darcy, good to see you. Do you agree with Frank?
I don't agree with Frank's depiction. He said that Fairfield was going to be turned into Calcutta and that this would be the end of backyard cricket. They do play a fair bit of backyard cricket in Calcutta, as far as I know. What we do have to see is all levels of government do more to address the housing supply crisis. It's a real problem, we all know that, and I think there's many levers that the state government needs to pull that they're not doing at the moment, and
like
local government has to have a seat at the table, and we have. Well, for example, the state government needs to increase investment in public housing, but in addition to that, all around the world you see governments doing a lot more to actually intervene in the housing market. Take Singapore, for example, where the government owns most of the housing. So if there's a deficit in the number of homes being built, there's no reason the government couldn't set up a corporation to build more homes.
Yes, but the problem with all of that is they've already got a target, and I think it's around, say, 75,000 a year in New South Wales. Who builds them and where? Aren't they the two fundamental problems?
Well, the government has got a series of rezoning proposals that they put out just before Christmas, and they asked councils in Sydney and New South Wales to respond before the end of January. It's a bit hard to rewrite the planning system between Christmas Day and Australia Day, so we can't rush into it quite that quickly. I think councils need to come to the table constructively and work with the government through negotiation to deliver these rezoning reforms, but there's more avenues available to the government than just that, and we won't get anywhere if we just turn this into a cultural wars issue where we're attacking each other.
Yeah, sure, but okay, so let's distill this down, because there's a lot of motherhood statements in all of this debate that get us absolutely nowhere. So what, in your view, is the pathway to building more homes more quickly?
Well, the government's proposing transport-orientated development, that is that there be large-scale rezonings around transport hubs. We agree with that in principle, but you can't just draw a circle on a map and say, yeah, we've fixed the problem. They need to bring local government into the discussion. Well, we've had no consultation at all so far.
How? So what would you tell government? Let's do this now. What would you tell government? That, you know, have you got 3 things that you would put to Chris Minns to say, you can do that now?
Invite every mayor in Sydney and New South Wales in to discuss the problem at State Parliament,
that
rather
doesn't
than
get
just telling them what you're going to do
though.
over the top.
Do you know what I mean?
You can't rewrite the planning system if you don't do a bit of consultation and negotiation. This is a long-standing problem that's taken decades to manifest, pretending that just putting mass rezonings in a matter of months, and they're saying they'll do it by April, is not realistic.
But
and
when
if
we're
you
talking
tell
about
local
mass
councils,
rezonings, Darcy, when we're talking about mass rezonings, it's not completely rewriting the planning system as you put. I mean, the proposal that Chris Minns has put in December was to actually rezone some land so on bigger blocks you can actually, you know, developers can build duplexes for residents. Wouldn't that push up the price of a block of land?
I support making it easier to subdivide and to have more duplexes. Speaking for my own area, if you add up all of the different concentric circles that the government's proposing, essentially it looks on paper like it's rezoning the entirety of the inner west. So we've got questions about that. We know that the problem does have to be addressed, but we'd like them to invite us in for a discussion about how we can fix it together.
Okay, so how long is this discussion going to take?
Well, it's taken about 4 decades to get to this point in the housing crisis, so I don't think local councils can be held accountable because they couldn't fix it in 1 month between Christmas Day and January 26th. And we need a cooperative approach. I don't agree with the rhetoric used by people such as Frank Carbone, the Mayor from Fairfield, but I do think that local government needs to be brought into the discussion. And let's not pretend that this crisis is going to be solved in a few months' time.
Darcy, you're pretending like you haven't been part of the discussion at all. You have, haven't you?
No, we've had no consultation, no engagement. I've requested multiple times. I'm not saying this for the first time. I said at the very start of this discussion when the government was working up its policies last year, let's not turn this into a culture wars issue where people are attacking each other. Bring us in so that we can take responsibility for putting forward solutions. In my own area, we've nominated 10 different car parks and depots that the council owns that we've offered to the state government for conversion to public housing. We know that we have to be part of the solution, but we can't do that if no one's talking to us and we're just reading about the argument in the newspaper.
Okay, well, I look forward to an update on those conversations then, Darcy. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks very much for your time.